This story was sent in by a subscriber of mine. He says this is a true event. Something that happened to him, his brother, and a small group of friends late one night. He doesn't claim to know exactly what they saw, but he says that ever since that night, he refuses to walk after dark in his hometown, and he avoids one street entirely.
Madness&Macabre.
It started off completely normal. They were all hanging out at a buddy's apartment. Nothing crazy, just a small get-together. Music playing low, people laughing, a couple drinks. That relaxed kind of late-night energy where time slips by faster than you realize. At some point, someone suggested going for a walk, just to get some fresh air. No one argued. It was late, but not that late. The kind of hour where the world feels quiet, not threatening. The streets were mostly empty, the air was cool, and everything felt calm enough that nobody even thought twice about it. So they headed out. They walked for maybe 4 or 5 minutes at first, just talking, joking around, enjoying the silence between conversations. Eventually, without really meaning to, they turned onto a road none of them usually walk down, a dead street, the kind of road that doesn't loop back around. No houses near the end, no traffic. Just a long stretch of pavement with woods lining one side. They kept going. At first, it felt peaceful. The sounds of the apartment complex faded behind them, replaced by crickets and the distant hum of the night. The trees along the road grew denser the farther they walked, their branches leaning inward like they were listening. Someone mentioned how far they'd gone. 2 miles, maybe more. They laughed it off and kept walking. That's when everything changed. The narrator said he was walking beside his brother when he noticed movement near the edge of the road, close to the tree line. Small, low to the ground. His first thought was simple. A raccoon. That made sense. They were near the woods. Animals crossed the road all the time out there. He nudged his brother and said something like, "Hey, you see that?" His brother looked. "Yeah," he said. And that was when everyone stopped walking. Not because someone told them to, but because the thing by the road stopped too. It froze mid-movement, just inside the reach of the streetlight behind them. Its shape was wrong for a raccoon when you really looked at it. Too tall in the shoulders, too still. The night went quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. The kind where you suddenly realize you can hear your own breathing. No one spoke. They all just stood there staring. Seconds passed. Then the thing did something none of them were prepared for. It stood up. Not slowly, not clumsily. It rose smoothly onto 2 legs, unfolding upward until it was towering over the roadside brush. 7 feet tall, maybe more. Too tall to be any animal that belonged there. Its limbs were long, too long. And the way it balanced didn't look natural, like it wasn't used to standing that way, but knew how to anyway. That's when the narrator noticed something else. The sound, or rather, the lack of it. No footsteps, no snapping branches, no rustling leaves. The only noise was a faint, wet clicking sound, subtle, rhythmic, like something adjusting itself. Breathing wrong. The thing didn't charge them. It didn't growl. It didn't even seem startled. It just turned its head slightly, as if acknowledging that they were there. And then, without warning, it moved. Not toward them, into the woods. It took 1 step backward, then another, still upright, before suddenly dropping forward and disappearing into the tree line with impossible speed. That was when the group finally reacted. They ran, not screaming at first, just pure instinct. shoes slapping pavement, lungs burning, no one daring to look back. The street that had felt peaceful minutes earlier now felt endless, stretching out in front of them like it was trying to trap them there. Someone stumbled, someone swore, someone finally screamed. They didn't stop until they were back in familiar streets, under working lights, pounding on apartment doors like the woods might follow them home. Inside the apartment, no one laughed. No one joked about it being a deer, or a prank, or a trick of the light. They all knew better. They sat in silence, replaying the same moment over and over. The way it stood up, the way it moved, the way it made no sound as it ran. Eventually someone said the word, "Skinwalker." No one argued. The narrator says he's gone back during the day. The street looks normal, harmless, just asphalt and trees. But at night, he won't go near it, because animals don't stand up like that. And whatever they saw, watch them leave. The next account comes from a subscriber who says one night changed the way he looks at the woods forever. At first, it was just footsteps behind them. Then it got closer and closer. He says this happened years ago, when he and two friends were cutting through a wooded trail they'd used dozens of times before. It was supposed to be a shortcut, a narrow path that ran alongside a river, close enough that you could hear the water moving even in the dark. They'd taken it before without any issues. That night felt no different at first. They were laughing, talking, not paying much attention to where they were stepping. The moon was out just enough to give shape to the trees, and the river to their left kept a steady, calming sound. Then they heard footsteps. At first, they assumed it was one of them, but the rhythm was wrong, too slow, too deliberate. They stopped walking. The footsteps stopped too. Someone joked that maybe they were being paranoid, so they kept moving. A few seconds later, the footsteps came back, louder this time, closer, crunching through leaves and snapping small branches like whoever or whatever it was didn't care about being quiet. That's when one of them said, "Okay, that's not funny." They picked up their pace. The sound followed. Heavy steps now, uneven, like something was running badly, stumbling, correcting itself, catching up. They turned their flashlights on and swept the tree line. Nothing, but the sound was definitely behind them now, and gaining. One of them broke into a run. The others followed. That's when it started making noise. Not a growl, not a scream. More like a strained, breathy wheeze, wet and ragged, punctuated by sharp, clicking sounds that reminded the narrator of teeth snapping together. They could hear it crashing through the brush, moving straight toward them instead of around obstacles. That's what scared them the most. Animals avoid things. This thing didn't. They burst through a break in the trees and skidded to a stop at the riverbank. The water was moving fast, dark, cold. They hesitated. Behind them, the footsteps were almost on top of them now. One of them turned around and froze. He didn't get a clear look, just a shape between the trees, too tall, hunched forward, moving in jerky bursts. The flashlight beam caught long limbs and something pale where a face should have been. It screamed. This time it was unmistakable, high-pitched, broken, like air being forced through a throat that wasn't meant to make that sound. That was all it took. They jumped. The cold hit like a shock to the chest, stealing their breath as the current pulled at their legs. They fought to keep their footing, half swimming, half stumbling across the rocks toward the opposite bank. The screaming stopped, but the splashing didn't. Something had entered the water behind them, not swimming, wading. They didn't look back. They dragged themselves onto the far bank and ran until their lungs burned and their legs shook so badly they could barely stand. They never heard it follow them out of the river, but they also never heard it leave. To this day, the subscriber says none of them will go near that trail at night, and they all agree on one thing. Whatever chased them didn't stop because it was afraid. It stopped because the water forced it to. This last story was sent in by a subscriber who says he still checks over his shoulder every time he walks home at night. Not because something chased him, but because something kept showing up where it shouldn't have been. He says this happened when he was around 19. He worked late shifts at a small grocery store on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just a quiet place that closed at 11, with a short walk home through a residential area. He'd done the walk hundreds of times. Streetlights, sidewalks, quiet houses. It was boring more than anything. One night, he clocked out a little after closing. It was just past 11:30. The streets were empty, the air was cool, and everything felt completely normal. He put his headphones in, started walking, and didn't think much of it. About 5 minutes into the walk, he noticed someone standing under a streetlight ahead. Just a man, standing on the sidewalk. He wasn't doing anything strange. No pacing, no phone, no smoking. Just standing there. The subscriber remembers thinking it was a little odd, but not enough to worry about. Maybe the guy was waiting for a ride. Maybe he lived nearby. As he got closer, he pulled one earbud out, just to stay aware. The man didn't move, didn't look at him, didn't shift his weight. He was facing the street, not the sidewalk, just standing under the yellow light like a silhouette. The subscriber walked past him. No greeting, no eye contact, just a quiet, uncomfortable moment as he passed within a few feet of him. Then he kept going. He put his earbud back in and walked another block. That's when he noticed the next street light and the man standing under it. He slowed down. It was the same posture, same height, same stillness, standing directly under the light, facing the street. He stopped walking. The distance between the two streetlights was at least half a block. There was no way the man could have passed him without him noticing. No driveways open, no side paths, just straight sidewalk. And yet, there he was. The subscriber felt a tightness in his chest. He told himself it was just another guy, different person, coincidence. So he kept walking. As he approached, the man didn't react, didn't turn his head, didn't acknowledge him at all. Again, he passed within a few feet, and again, nothing happened. No voice, no movement, no sound of breathing, just stillness. The subscriber walked faster this time. He didn't put his earbud back in. He just kept moving, eyes forward, telling himself he was being stupid. Then he saw the next street light, and his stomach dropped because the man was already there, standing under it, waiting. Same posture, same position, like he had been placed there. The subscriber stopped completely this time, right in the middle of the sidewalk. The distance was too far. There was no time, no sound of footsteps, no shadows moving between the lights. Just the man, under the glow of the streetlight, again. For the first time, the man turned his head, slowly, not toward the subscriber, toward the dark space between the houses, as if he was listening to something the subscriber couldn't hear. Then he turned back to facing the street and stood still again. That was enough. The subscriber didn't pass him a third time. Instead, he crossed the street, cutting diagonally across a lawn and heading straight for his house. He didn't look back, not once. He got to his front door, fumbled his keys, and rushed inside, locked the door, turned off the lights, and waited. A few minutes passed. Then, unable to help himself, he peeked through the blinds toward the street. The streetlight in front of his house glowed softly, and beneath it, nothing. No man, no shadow, just an empty sidewalk. He says he never saw the man again, but to this day, whenever he walks home at night, he finds himself scanning every streetlight ahead, just in case someone is already standing under the next one, waiting for him to get closer.